Alright, so here we go again, folks. Let's go ahead and start putting together the user interface, or at least wire things up inside of our main activity. So we have these text views and so forth. Get rid of anything that we don't need. Okay, inside the top here we have the image view. Now let's go ahead and create a few others. So private, it's going to be text view because we have a few text views here for this project. I'm going to go ahead and put all in the same line. I'm going to call this breaths text, time text, call this session text, which you will see in a second here, txt as such. Okay, and of course right below here I'm going to start putting it all together. So I'm going to say breaths text, find by ID r.id, say breaths taken. Okay, and then I'm going to say time text, find by ID r.id dot time, I think we call last breath text, and then I'm going to say session text by ID r.id dot today minutes text and such. Okay, and before I forget, let's say private here. We have our button, call this start button, and you guessed it, I'm gonna say button start button by ID r.id dot start button. Okay, so once we have that, what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to create a method, private method at the bottom here. Say private void start intro animation. And I'm going to go ahead and create another one. So I'm going to say void start animation. And we'll see in a second what these will do. Well, through the name, by the name, you can see what they will do. So with our start intro animation, what we're going to do, we're actually going to animate the text view. Which one? Well, it's going to be this text view here. Okay, because we want it, once they enter the application, we're going to do a little animation while this breathe text view shows. All right, so what I'm going to do, let me go ahead and copy this because the code is essentially the same. In fact, I'm going to put it all here. We're going to do some adjustments here, of course. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. And what I'm going to do, this is going to be text view. Let's see, what do we call that text view? We should create another one here. That would be, it's called breathe. Call this guide text. Okay, and at the bottom here, I'm going to say guide text. Over by ID r.id dot guide text such. Okay, so we're going to use this guide text view. That's what we're going to animate. Say guide text as such. And what do we need to do? And what we want to do, we actually want to scale it, right, from 0 to 1. Okay, so from nothing to big. And then what are we going to do also? We're going to add the on start handler here. So we're going to pass this new animation listener that will literally listen to when this start, we want something to happen. The moment this animation starts, we want something to happen. Well, what is it that we want it to happen? We want our guide text and set it to something else. So we're going to say text. I'm going to set the text. Go. I want to just say breathe. Okay, so that's about it. That's all we want for our start intro animation. Now the start intro animation is going to be called right inside here. Let's say start intro animation as such. Save and give it a quick run. We should be able to see our intro animation happening. It was real quick, and because if we go back, sorry, this has to be start intro animation. I called the wrong one. Let's give it a run again. You should see this breathe. Look at that. And there we go. I like that. Very nice. Let's give a duration of about 1500 milliseconds, so 1.5 seconds. Let's see. There we go. That looks very good. The next thing we're going to do, let's work on the start animation here, because this is going to be the animation the moment they hit start button. We want to start animating our image view here. So we're going to rotate it, and we're also going to pulsate it, make it smaller, bigger, and small, and so forth. Okay. To do that, obviously we're going to do the same thing. We're just going to copy this, put it down here, inside here. Now we're obviously not animating the text, we're animating the image view. We call this image view. Is that what we called it? Let's see. Yes, indeed. Lotus image. Not a very descriptive name, but it's okay since we only have one image anyway. So our image view, what we're going to do is we're going to animate that. Before we scale it, I'm going to say dot alpha. Okay, I'm going to start from 0, so not visible, to 1. I'm going to add this on start. In fact, let me get rid of all of this. All right, so our on start, we are going to say guide text. We want to say here, inhale, exhale. Okay, are going to decelerate. So instead of accelerate, we are going to reduce the acceleration to movement to make it smooth back and forth. Okay, that's what I'm going to do, and say then I'm going to give it a duration of about 1 millisecond. I'm sorry, 1 second, which is 1000 milliseconds. And then I am going to scale, and then I'm going to say then animation, then animate. So once this first animation happens, we can add as many animations as we want. So I'm going to use the same image view to animate it again. So now we are going to scale this animation. Okay, I'm going to say dot scale. Okay, the start is going to be, let's say 0.02, so it's going to be very small. And in the middle, it's going to be the size. It's going to be 1.5, and the end is also going to be the same size as in the beginning. Okay, like that. And the other thing I want to be able to the other thing I want is the rotation, because I want the image to actually rotate. I want it to rotate 360 degrees. That. Look at how easy this is. And then I am going to say repeat count, because I want this to repeat 6 times. In fact, I want this about 6 times. Okay, we can change those numbers. And then once that happens, I'm going to call the accelerate, because we decelerate it first. And once the acceleration happens, I want to give a duration of about 5000 milliseconds. So that's 5 seconds. And then on stop, once the duration has ended and we are stopping the animation, I'm going to say new animation on stop. I want to do some things here. What I want to do is I want to set our guide text, say here guide text, to say good job. And what I'm also going to do is I'm going to scale our image to be the same size that it was before, which is going to be pretty much the size that we added in the beginning. So this size here. Okay, so we are resetting everything. So we're going to say image view. I can set the scale, the X direction, to 1.0f. Image view, that's set scale Y to also 1.0f as such. So it's going to be the normal scale. Now let's go ahead and try this. This is not going to work because the start isn't called. So that means now at the top here, let's start our button. You're going to set on click listener, new on click listener, right? Because I want to make sure that all of this actually happens once they've clicked start. That's the whole point, right? So I'm going to say here, start animation. There we go. So it's going to call this. Save and give it a run. If all goes well, we should be able to see. There we go. Breathe. And let's say start. And look at that. Inhale. Inhale. And exhale. It's going to go at least for 8 times, because actually 7 times. Let's keep going. There we go. Good job. Very nice. Very, very, very nice indeed. I hope you can see the power of using libraries. We could have obviously done this on our own using the APIs or the libraries that come with our Android APIs on Android platform, but it's easier to use something that has been proven to work, a library, and it makes our life much, much easier. All right, perfect. So I'll see you in the next video where we are going to continue working on this app. We're getting close, folks. All right, see you next.